Hello everyone, this is Wizard Yaowen and Will Love Light and Magic. And today I've got the topics: the center of the Fuxi diagram or arrangement, the 16 court cards structurally compared to the 16 geomantic figures, and then the pentagram's elemental attributions detailed. The ones I use for ritual, and there's really only, as I see it, two variations that you could use. So I'll get into those and what I think is the proper attributions for the pentagram. Pentagram, because mine differ from that of the Golden Dawn, which is the standard in magic being taught right now. So without further ado, we're going in order of topic right here. Here are the three diagrams, and unlike in previous videos where I kind of go out on a tangent, I'll just list these these three diagrams I have today quickly here. This is my version of what the very center of the Fuxi diagram should look like within the Taijitu, and actually within the BINDU that represents Keter. So within the, when you look at mandalas, you notice there's that center point that's usually just a circle. Well, that's what that circle is. It's just not terribly round. And it looks kind of like a cat's eye here, because this is supposed to be what is called a Vesica Pisces, which is a nice oval type figure. But what it is the combination of two circles. I didn't fill them in, but see this ring right here, is, it would go, it wouldn't go right around into this circle, don't think that. It would go out into a further circle, like that. If we extended this one as well, it would go way out there a little bit more. So, yeah, I haven't drawn it. This is like not exactly graphically. That's just a real brief demonstration. I actually just kind of came upon a solidification of my views today concerning that specific subject. And so I use this symbol for the very inside of the withinness of the BINDU, but the student can represent any the student can choose a symbol to represent the Ein Sof triad. I kind of got ahead of myself, and by doing so, choose any symbol that represents the Ein triad of the Tree of Life, and that's what this symbol to me represents. A triadic unity. So you could just put a triangle here. I just kind of got fancy and put this in. but it's supposed to represent the Ein triad of the tree of life, and kind of represent 0. You can kind of put a 0 there somehow, and then as somehow within a BINDU. A 0 within a BINDU might look okay, but I use this symbol inside of Vesica Pisces, and I'm kind of going with that. Anyway, I actually kind of got specific, and I think this little BINDU here is supposed to be 1 unit of diameter. So if we are using inches, we could say 1 inch. And then the Taiji-2 itself, it should be 2 units on each side of that BINDU. In measure, I'll say. So that could be 2 inches on each side. So right there you would have a 3-inch, as little as it would get would be about a 3-inch diagram right there as the BINDU and the Taiji-2. I have it bigger, looks bigger here. And then right at that outer layer, the first outer layer of the Fuxi diagram would begin the 4 elemental bigrams. And I showed the first elemental bigram in the south, the southerly direction right here. Paper wasn't quite big enough for what I was drawing here. I could have shortened it down. I didn't really want to. I kind of wanted to show this big, very central BINDU here that I like. So I like that one. Yeah, just kind of like this. It's kind of my hypothesis, just that symbol within the Vesica Pisces, within a BINDU, and you could kind of put a dot in where that kind of pentagram in the middle is, the kind of where it makes a dot, and if you wanted to, kind of like you could do it, try to do that. So I just kind of like that, but I did get off, and that was kind of long again for what I got 2 more diagrams here. Okay, next we're discussing this structural comparison of the wow, that's cool. I really made that one large, man. The structural comparison of the 16 binary system tetragrams as they are depicted in Geomancy, but then I pretty much create and then compare what would be the 16 tetragrams of the binary system, more commonly known as the Yi Jing. These grams I've graphed don't exist within the traditional Yi Jing literature, and they have never seen print, and I'm just kind of discussing these in my videos right now as a part of an educational series with the correlations that I prefer. So it's real cool. So these are the 4 elements, but I've written them in Latin, because why not? You always like varied symbols, because actually the varied terminology, because this symbology reached across centuries and languages, and it goes well with the 16 geomantic figures have Latin names to them most commonly. So where like this the first geomantic figure is Wea, the way, and that's this figure right here. It's just 4 dots vertically aligned. 4 dots vertically aligned. This practice started out in Africa, and they just used to kind of poke dots in the sand, would be one method of this practice. That's why it's kind of called geomancy. It's kind of earth-based, known for being kind of earth-based, where you just poke poke a number of holes in the in the dirt and kind of see how many there are. You kind of do it randomly, see how they are, how many they are. Kind of gets into. I mean, it's of course a lot more complex than that, but I'm trying to be like super brief here. And see that, like if you just compare that gram right there, try to get in here in the center, and that's the means just the way in Latin. But you see how the 4 dots correspond to 4 solid lines of the binary system gram that is written like you would a Yijing hexagram commonly. Just 4 horizontal, unbroken, solid lines. And further, the student should be able to see how those 4 lines can be further bisected into a pair of what are called bigrams that are 2 lines each. So what this tetragram is just 2 bigrams stacked on top of each other. That's how you can look at it anyway. That's how to structurally break that gram down. Because it's just the 16 permutations of the elements. And I can do them now, and it's logically arranged from yang to yin. So that's why with the binary system, you cannot go father, mother, son, daughter, because you can't have the mother before the son with this special order of the binary system. So it always has to go father, son, mother, daughter. So that's different from the more common order used in what I just call magic today, which is based on the Hebrew God name Yehovah, where Yod, He, Wah, He is correlated to the elements fire, water, air, earth as father, mother, son, daughter. And so what I'm saying, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I don't want to say even kind of, that is divine, it turns out, too. And there is a certain case for its use, as we will actually see later on in this video. But right now, I am talking about the binary system, and that follows a very strict order of logic from yang to yin. So you can't have any kind of elemental / family order where the father and son or mother and daughter are broken up. It will not make logical sense. So you cannot do that, and that's why actually I propose the tarot be reordered into a excuse me, wands, swords, cups, coins order, because believe it or not, the tarot does follow this binary system's strict order of logic. And so you have to be aware enough to know when to apply the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh order of fire, water, air, earth, and when to apply the binary system's super logical order of yang to yin, which is father, son, mother, daughter, as fire, air, water, earth. So that's pretty cool, and we'll get into both that. That's kind of this the point of this talk right here. Beyond what I would consider a necessary change to the modern Fuxi arrangement, which is to include the Ein region of the tree of life somehow right in the center of it. However you want. You could put a hexagram there. That would be nice, because that's the child. What you want to kind of represent is the Ein Sof R portion, believe it or not, because that itself, as the last part and the triune part, that will always represent the entire Ein region if you use a cognate enough symbol for it. So that's what I did and what I suggest, and then you use that somehow like a hexagram right in the center of that martial arts symbol of the Taiji 2, within the circle, like a hexagram within a circle. And then you could put it even like a dot, like a little BINDU dot right there. That would probably be one of the choice ways to diagram that. We're just looking for a BINDU inside a Taiji 2. So that's kind of fun to say. Should I say that a little bit? A BINDU inside a Taiji 2. That's what Wizard Ya Owen reveals unto you. A BINDU inside a Taiji 2. That's what I profess is the outerness of Abrahadabra, the sacred triad. So, back on here, and I think I've pretty much introduced this quite well, and we'll get into it secondly. But it's great. It's the 16 court cards of the tarot correlated to the 16 geomantic figures structurally. Now, who would have logically thought of that? Well, I did, but it hasn't been depicted heretofore. Or I mean, and by that I mean adumbrated or hypothesized. So I love this, and I love the correlations to the court cards. You just kind of have to have a slightly open mind and be willing to really study the historic geomantic symbolism, such as in Stephen Skinner's work, Geomancy, I believe so. Okay, and then the third diagram, well, it's actually diagram, excuse me, gee, my name, Christmas. Here is kind of my meta diagram on, believe it or not, the correlations of the pentagram. What the correct correlations of the pentagram are, it turns out. Because remember, it turns out, and I just actually talked about it, there are two major contenders for the correlations to the pentagram, and one is the kind of transcendent of harsh logic order. So where you do have father, mother, son, daughter as the elemental order. And then the second is the harsh logical order, where from yang to yin, where the two yang bigrams come first as father and son, and that is followed by the two yin bigrams of mother and daughter. So that's basically kind of it. Those and if you can just kind of just work with that, that is the two major ways to correlate the pentagram to the elements. And let me further detail the binary system based elemental order. I'll just go over to touch, and then we'll get back to the first diagram. But you can do it on the human body, and that's where we kind of get into even binary philosophy. So historically, because most men and humans are right-handed, the right arm got symbolized to mean the strong arm, and as such, the male arm, as composed to the left arm being the I guess weak arm, and then the female arm a little bit. And it probably doesn't help that it's quite hard to throw things with your weak arm usually, unless you're a bit ambidextrous and can use both arms. So just because most people are right-handed, the right arm got associated with being strong, kind of a symbol of strength, and the left not so much, and more probably with creativity. It's kind of like why you see the right eye being associated with Ra more than it is Horus, I'll say, even though there's plenty of right eye sculptures or talismans. There is supposed to be the magic eye of Horus even too. So, but kind of technically, perhaps left eye would be Horus and right eye would be Ra. But since it's both, Horus, and then Horus even had a right eye was the sun and his left the moon, etc. So it's not exactly the so rigid right there, but we can say the right eye of Horus or Ra is a really good sun symbol. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but I got off the topic of the pyramid being correlated to the elements. And the two, we went over the two symbols that sets, the elemental symbol sets of either fire, water, air, earth, or fire, air, water, earth. And I was beginning to explain the binary elemental orders logic and symbology by noting that the right arm is usually symbolic of more of the male than the left arm. So we take note of that. We take note of that, and we could put the yang unigram right here and the yin unigram right here. Now, it's not so obvious when we're wanting to consider the legs. Eggheads? No, I'm just kidding. So what are the legs? Because like nobody knows what the heck the right foot is compared to the left foot. I mean, I like to get foot loose. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I was getting foot loose. Down at a place called the Noose. And wouldn't you newsy it? Wouldn't you knew it? Wouldn't you knew it? Wouldn't you knew it? People tugging at my leg warmer. I guess that's the price of fame. So. We'll get into the pentagram's correlations. You don't know what foot it's what until you study the biology of the halibut. What? No, just kidding. So it's a little tricky. Now, I was like, actually, one of the little tricks I thought to look at, the temperance card of the tarot. We'll just like kind of, you know, you're me here not knowing, okay, right, left foot, what's going on there? Actually, I can, there's a more logical way to look at it, but we're saying, hey, I'm illogical, but I do remember the tarot card temperance. And like what foot would that angel be putting in the water? It's got one it's got 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the bank, on the earth. I got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Oh, what? It's what? I got 1, 2, and makes. What you gonna do about it, snakes? So I got my right foot in the water, my left foot on earth, chilling, rocking, mixing up some wine and water with the solar glare for hair, wings behind my back, the corona of light shining of the Tau infinitum, Ein Sof R, directly shown as the end of the path behind me. But anyway, the important point is the right foot in the water and the left foot on earth right there. So that's pretty cool. But we know right is yang and left is yin comparatively. Now, what would you say if you wanted to compare the arms to the legs in terms of opposites? Like, or at least yang to yin. You try to make are the arms more yang than the legs? So are the arms yang and the yin and the legs yin? Sorry, it's hard to say. Arms yang, legs yin. Which move around more, doing more complex things? Which members of the body are closer to the head, which is symbolic of the realm of spirit? Which members of the body, the arms or the legs, do you type with? Hands or the feet? So the hands are involved with painting. More complex functions. That's why they're a little bit longer, extended out. I'm not sure of all the differences, but they're there. But it turns out if we use heaven to earth symbolism, that the arms and hands are the heaven, and the legs and the feet are the earth. And you get into bodywork practices, so-called, where you can use grounding techniques that largely involve the legs, postures involving the legs. Okay, so there is definitely a nice grounding relationship there, as opposed to the arms. So the legs, yes, are more grounded than the arms, and as such are more of the element of the yin elements. See, I'm not sure how I even got there, but that's actually a decent logic to use. I mean, it fits that. See, the legs are closer to the ground as we walk upright. Anyway, and in most animals, the haunch of the animals will probably be more muscular. You don't want to get kicked by a horse. Although I could probably at least stomach it. No, I'm just kidding. So, just basically, and then the correspondence is the arms partake of the elements fire and air more, so that the legs represent water and earth. Now, I think the temperance card is kind of a psychological tell. I've learned to look for those a little bit within humanity's use of symbolism. I don't want to say it's like, wow, that's how it's always that easy or something like that. But right here in the temperance card, you have the right foot as water and the left foot as earth. And so if you follow the logic where the left is more yin, because that is the most yin, right there is earth as the left foot. So the left, that logic of the left and right is carried up the body to the left arm, and that's more yin than the right arm. And the element air is more yin than the element fire. The element fire is the most yang, so it's the right arm, and then the left arm is air. So you've got fire, right arm, air, left arm, water, right leg, earth, left leg. That's the binary order figured out. All right, touche, suckers. That's what it's not quite all about, as it turns out. What? That's not what it's all about. That was the most logically thought out, super dynamic set of equations I've ever heard. Yeah, I know. That's why it's like the second contender. But it turns out, nah, I don't think so. Not for the pentagram. I mean, that's cool with the human body, but and the human body's on Earth, see? We have to keep thinking about it. We don't want to make rash conclusions. The human body is on Earth, and as such, Malkut on the Tree of Life, you can say, as the kingdom. We are in the kingdom of Malkut upon the Tree of Life as the number 10. So that's one, you know, is that in favor of using a binary system order that we are in Malkut? Because when, let me go up. So the other option would be to use the Yod-He-Wah-He elemental order that exists as the Ein and Keter region of the Tree of Life. So when we're doing ritual, or like that's the logic you have to use as a magus doing ritual. It doesn't have to be us. You don't have to do even. You can use this as a philosophy. You don't even actually have to put it into practice if you don't want to. But as a ceremonial magus doing high magic ritual, you don't want to use symbolism for the pentagram that's based upon the lowest binary system elemental correlation down in Malkut. That's my opinion. You want to keep your ritual circle as holy as possible at all times, because it represents the Holy Spirit. The center of the circle represents the Holy Spirit, and the number 1 is Keter. It's not obvious. This my stance is not obvious to someone not accustomed to ceremonial magic, almost. You want dominion over the 4 elements. That's the goal, believe it or not. And that's the goal in life, where unity seeks dominion over duality, and that's because when you let duality into the subject, problems usually arise, and that's kind of like where problems creep up. Nobody wants problems. It's just like that's a natural example of not really wanting duality to creep up. So you don't really want to use the binary systems correlations, it turns out, in magic ritual, because you're seeking ever more unity. Hey, I finally got there. So in ritual, you're seeking, in like what is called white magic ritual, where you're just pretty much anointing yourself with the Holy Spirit as a principle of the unity. You're just trying to unify yourself doing white magic ritual, because in the most common and popular ritual there is, you just go around the 4 elemental directions and kind of do some gestures there of whatever, we'll just say for our purposes, whatever the type of behavior you may. The important point being a union with the 4 elements. And then after that, you go back to the center of the circle and unify yourself with the Holy Spirit as the center principle, and kind of circulate a little bit of gesture there. And then that magically unites you with the four directions and the centerness of spirit. And then you usually say something like abrahadabra when you want to end it. And that kind of just seals the deal there. But right after, and then you can either, end it and then do some yoga, or you can kind of leave you're right at the center at that point. It's kind of a nice time to just do continue doing some breath work, and kind of mix and match there, or you can just end it, just like a ritual there a little bit. So that's a real common thing. And believe it or not, it affects you at a deep level, deeper than you would think. Just doing that, it's pretty interesting. But that'll center you. It's just all equilibration and centerness, believe it or not, of the body and mind, I suppose, But so it ends up being the Yod-He Wah-He order is the best, and also banishing. So I didn't get into this. This is I'll get right to it though. As I write little, right when I draw this pentagram here. Right here is a banishing fire. How you banish fire? You just draw a clockwise pentagram. I mean, not a clockwise, counterclockwise pentagram from this arm, as it turns out. Because, as I say, the correct attributions are to use the Jehovah formula, and I compare this to Sator Arepo Texet Opera Rotus, and I didn't up here nor here, but you can kind of glean them from this. So I'm not kind of writing it on this graph paper. Ooh, look at that. See, got the eye going. What? But I correlate Sator Arepo Opera Rotus to Father, Mother, Son, Daughter, and so fire, water, air, earth, and that's I have the direct parallels to the elements, so you'll be able to figure everything out. But anyway, here's how it goes around the pentagram. It goes right to left, like if somebody oh no, I'm doing it wrong. Here we go. Like if a wand, you went like this. It goes Sator, Arepo Texet Opera Rotas. All right, and that's fire, air, spirit, water. Nope, I got it wrong. It's fire, water, spirit, air, earth. All right, that's what it is. Fire, water, spirit, air, earth. But that's kind of wrong. You don't want that symbology. You don't want spirit right in the middle of water and air, unless you're thinking really about the center principle as the kind of blend of everything. But that's not. It is slightly when you're trying to kind of equilibrate yourself, but the correct principle of the Holy Spirit is, of course, the unity of Keter, and pretty much the Deus principle. So, of that which is without duality, to a really unified, to a very good extent. Speaking from the unitary point. All right. All right, this should be just part 2 of this talk. Continuing with the first diagram. And that's my hypothesis for what the central BINDU area of the Fuxi arrangement looks like, which is this diagram here. Well, that's a little silly, but it's right here. And we like it like that. It's a circle, poorly drawn circle, with the Vesica Pisces within it. And then just my symbol to represent the entire Ein region of the Tree of Life. And as I said, you could do a triangle or a hexagram right there. And you want to kind of represent specifically the Ein Sof R region of the Tree of Life, because then that region usually represents the child or can represent the child aspect of a triad of father, mother, child. And so putting some kind of triangular symbolism right there would in turn symbolize the 3 regions of the Hermetic Tree of Life: the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof R. And getting specific, if we zoom out here, you can kind of see how it would match up to the symbolism of the Taiji 2 in the next outer space. The Taiji 2 remains fairly big, and then right after this, that Taiji 2 there will be that first outer circle or outer level of the 4 elemental bigrams, which is actually the 3rd level of the binary system as represented in the Fuxi arrangement. So to get specific, see how I write this? 1 unit diameter. The BINDU circle should be 1 unit in diameter, and the Taiji 2 measurements are that it should expand 2 units out from where the BINDU circle of 1 unit in diameter leaves off. So together, the circle that contains the BINDU and the Taiji 2 will be 2.5 units in radius, which is to say 5 units in diameter. So this circle right here, the first circle, my hand's here, this first circle, that's going to be 2.5 units in radius, which equals 5 units in diameter. And then each outer level of it, I propose, should be 1 unit in diameter of length. And so let me see here. We can get a pretty exact wow, that must really be down in the path, in the patch I meant, but it's right here. You see here? So this should be 5 units, and then each outer level should be 1 unit right here. So 2.5 in radius though. And then 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5 units in radius. So that means this entire diagram is always 14 units in diameter. Very cool. Discovered something there, right? 14 units creates a nice, that's kind of my, I would say that's my general guess for a nicely drawn Fuxi arrangement. It's really big enough and I guess tall enough to fit the very outer level, which are the 64 hexagrams of the Yijing. But if you'll notice, let me use these that are actually drawn correctly. But if you will notice this, they naturally elongate themselves. The more grams you stack vertically upon each other, the more naturally vertically rectangular it will be. So, in this diagram, just a minor point, I kind of rolled a little bit square of triangles inside a circle. I first had just triangles and maybe rolled a circle like that. But anyway, and then I rolled the triangles should point to two directions, ideally. The King of Wands and the Princess of Coins. King of Wands, Princess of Coins. Tetragrams upon this diagram. So I'll put it here so I have it ready. King of Wands, Princess of Coins. You can see it right here. I just kind of got technical. They're right by the 45-degree angle spot, but technically it'd be like right here in the center is where those two dots, if they had some triangle symbolism, would point to. Pretty cool. So that's about it for this diagram, guys. It's just my reasoning for this, how I may draw my Fuxi arrangement. Okay, next, pretty tough subject here. Not really, but maybe slightly involved, that is, evolved too. But here we have the four elements at the top: ignis, air, aqua, and terra. And so let's use earth because this hand's nice to point to. So at the top here, this whole top horizontal row would be fire, and that would be air, and that would be water, and that would be earth right there. But you don't really have to remember that, but they do just kind of cycle, because this terra means earth in Latin, and here's how it is represented. These are these pictorial images for the 4 elements. This notation has alchemical origin, but that's the little symbol for Earth. And so we got fire of Earth, air of Earth, water of Earth, and earth of Earth as these 4 glyphs right here. And then I have them both with their corresponding geometric figure, and then how you write that if you were using a Yi Jing like graphic. If you were using the Yi Jing like gram graphics, this is how the two would compare structurally. Just structurally. Nobody's even done this. Nobody's even ever thought to do this. To just write them in their correlative Yi Jing gram-like structure. And then I think it would have been kind of clear to maybe get to be able to see that that's just 2 bigrams laid over top each other. That's just one of the 4 bigrams repeated, of course. You know, there's all kinds of ways to look at it, but basically that's just the 4 bigrams. Given it 16 permutations. So this is just 16 right here. It's 4 things permutated fully out by themselves. You want me to say it? Do you want me to sing it? Oh my goodness, you want me to say it and sing it. 1413 on a magic blue 20-sider. Fire of air, air of air. Oh, look at that. I was starting with air. I'm too happy. I got too bubbly right there. Fire of fire, air of fire, water of fire, earth of fire, fire of air, air of air, water of air, earth of air, fire of water, air of water, water of water, earth of water, fire of earth, air of earth, water of earth, earth of earth. That's the 16 right there. So we're doing it again until I can sing it. Fire of fire, air of fire, water of fire, earth of fire, fire of air, water of air, earth of air, fire of water, air of water, water of water, earth of water, fire of earth, air of earth, water of earth, earth of earth. That was enough. Thank the quickness of Loki. And that's these grams. And kind of that order, if you start right here and go down. Nope, right here. And go down. I'm trying to get a hold of this page. Boom, down, 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 down. So this. One more time. No. I am not. You have to pay for that stuff. But there we go. Very pretty, pretty, pretty. So do you want to get into the symbolism now? Okay, here we go. I'm just using this, I looked online, and you can't get too much better than this simple little Wikipedia page with the title, in quotations, Geomantic Figures. It gives a little bit of a qualifying description of what those are, A little bit of a symbolic description. So we got the first one, Latin, the way, which is my first tetragram, which would be King of Wands. It's basically the will. I don't really need, it's will because it's the 4 vertical dots. That's kind of symbolic of a staff of will. So you got the King of Wands there. It's always will. So that's just the way. It's the true way. Probably truth. You know, that is kind of just in not all cases. It's not really. It's saying that the way isn't exactly. It's more a neutral, or even bad for most things, but good with concerns of roads, travels, or journeys. So I guess you're like, if you got like something in mind or purpose, it may be bad, and that would be King of Wands is fire of fire. Perhaps it might be too much, something of too much of something, like too much energy, or somebody maybe yelling, or maybe I don't know, but usually that would be quite positive Latin for the way, because it means really wonderful force being applied to the problem and the way, and you'll see a way out of the problem. So anyway, you might hear some clicks. That's me kind of going through web pages, and shouldn't hear too many. But here the second here I have to go like this. Ooh boy, that's hard. I'm gonna have to show you guys like this. So I have, as I'm just gonna have to say these: fire of fire, air of fire, water of fire, earth of fire, King of Wands, Prince of Wands, Queen of Wands, Princess of Wands, and then the following 4 geomantic figures are correlated to those: Via, Caput Draconis, Puella, and Fortuna Major. That's how it lines up. You have me speaking that. So just so you guys know. So that's what we're doing now. And I say, well, yeah, that's probably pretty. Actually, it should be pretty good. The King of Wands. That's getting overcoming most things, and being knowledgeable and everything like that. So the only thing that would be negative if it got too fiery, of course. So now we're going, actually, Cauda Draconis, they actually have the first split. Well, I'm not even sure this is the actual first order of the geometric figures. You caught me not doing my my order, my double research of knowing for sure what the traditional order of the 16 geomantic figures are, because I have my own order based from yang to yin structurally. And I don't, and there's not a super amount of standardization with probably even historic works on geomancy, to tell you the truth. So might be okay. Let's see what if I can get something like this. Yeah, it's okay. Just be 1 second anyway. This is probably terrible. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just use something. I'm really not sure the Wikipedia order of the figures is correcto mundo, but anyway, it might go puer. In either Fortuna Major or puer and Amicio. Might go puer and Amicio or puer and Fortuna Major, but I'm just going to do the order they're kind of just listed in the Wikipedia article. So it's I have Cauda Draconis as Prince of Wands. It's kind of very bad in most situations. Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't have Cauda Draconis. Oops. Man, it's bad. I'm a bad person for saying I did have that. No, I'm not a bad person. But it's actually something like that's alright, I know how to read the G-rams. It's Caput Draconis. And I have it right. I misread my own handwriting. Whoops. It's Caput Draconis. Look at that. I have to kind of wish I did play tennis. I'd probably been able to do that better. It's Caput Draconis right there. And then with that gram right there, what you have air or fire. You have that symbol right there. Geometric symbol. Air or fire. What is that? Head of the dragon? Whoa, man. But I guess it's a neutral figure. Good with good, evil with evil. But fortunate with starting or beginning new things. It's favorable for beginnings and profit, but otherwise favorable with other favorable figures and unfavorable with unfavorable one. That's about it for this one. Blurp. So let me see. Air of fire. That would still be quite good. Maybe a little testy because the air is actually the most testy kind of element. Because it has Mars in it. Mars is actually airy in my system. It's the beginning of the air bigram, the planet. So you'd have air of fire, and it's still quite active. It's the second from the top as far as the yang tetragrams. So quite a lot of energy, of course, right there. So it'd be quite high intelligence optimally. We're talking about like it's good, the good characteristics. Air of fire, quite good. Should be able, very smart, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe testy, like I say. Maybe like if they say good with good, evil with evil, maybe it just compounds things like that. Maybe it'll compound goodness, compound evil, I don't know. So a lot more work needs kind of just like thought about this. I'm just going over my structural correlations. These have to be correct. There's no ifs, ands, don'ts, or buts about it. Ifs, ands, or don'ts about it, I think. I don't know. Ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I don't want to say buts real loud. That'd be kind of corno. And then here is water of fire right here. Water of fire. And that symbol is puella. So, and that's Queen of Wands. That's Latin for girl. Puella is. The symbol may represent a woman with breasts. By nature, you get some of this odd symbolism here. So this symbol right here. Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just try to go. There. Puella. Here you go. So you can imagine a woman standing here, and then that is her breasts. Puella. Maybe. So I'm not really proposing all of these ideas are actually historically accurate even. I'm going to have to actually delve into them, delve into all of it. I'm just kind of giving a quick comparison of how I think that my system compares to the geomantic tetragrams or figures. They're usually called just quotes geomantic figures. So but so you got water of fire as puella, and a woman with exaggerated breasts. You've got the water element and the fire element. That's kind of mother and father right there. Maybe is slightly sexual, because the water element, the water bigram separates into Venus and Mercury. So Venus is right there. So once you enter the water area of cups and the mother, you do kind of enter a natural enjoyment sphere. It represents joy a little bit, and just pleasure, also letting go a little bit. It can also represent spiritual liberation. So water of fire, maybe prayers even, meditative experiences, etc. and like that. So let's continue with what puella is. It is good in most situations, especially with women, beauty, or feminine situations. Yeah. Okay, they say it is the symbol of feminine sexuality, balancing the energy of puer. Puer looks slightly like that geometric figure. So some of this symbolism is based upon how the Africans thought the geometric figures looked like or resembled. Okay, finally, we got Earth of Fire as Fortuna Major. Awesome. And that's the tetragram. And geometric figure, Fortuna Major. Earth of Fire. Princess of Wands. Fortuna Major is Princess of Wands. Major Fortune, Fortuna Major. Blessings growing from the earth and being fruitful in the air. Okay, very nice fertility. Earth of fire. Growing from the earth, going probably. It's good in all situations. Great good fortune, especially in beginnings. It denotes power and success, perhaps from its earthiness. And then in the elevated spot of the wand suit. So is very favorable in conflicts and contests, being a figure of stability and long-term success. Princess of Wands. It denotes hardship at the outset of an endeavor. Princess of Wands, maybe a young girl striving to succeed, going to college, so forth, something like that. Going through the higher learning process, kind of a little bit of a will towards success. Would be Earth of Fire, Fortuna Major. So there's more to it. Fortuna Major, you don't get that kind of name without there being quite a good thing going there, and it might even be a relationship, because you got there that Earth bigram. We're kind of talking a little bit of earthy stuff, and so Earth of Fire might be a good relationship. Since it's the Princess of Wands, that is manifesting, or something good, a good rapport, perhaps with a friend, even, a friend, not necessarily romantic, some high level conversation, because it's kind of earthiness, high level conversation, but about, I'm not sure how, you never know exactly how to really pinpoint in on these, because it's all actually a wave of 16 different things. So the Earth bigram is definitely earthy, but we have fire right below that Earth bigram. Here is Fortuna Major, so it's kind of big. It's big success there a little bit, because you've got Earth of Fire. So it's the fire being earthed. So it's all kinds of success, greater fortune, hitting some pay dirt, etc. like that. And maybe like a pretty girl, honestly, a pretty young girl. Something like that maybe. But, all right. And then, so here we go. We're going over to the sword suit, that of air, the air suit. We got fire of air right here. That's King of Swords, the King of Swords. Right here. It's Puer. King of Swords is Puer. Pretty fitting, because Puer is noticeably a male geomantic figure. It means son or boy in Latin. All right. And they have it kind of as resembling a phallus. So it is represented with big male energies, perhaps over exuberant, but you get into the air suit and you have as the two planets that bifurcate from it, Mars and Sun. So you could say Aries and Apollo. So those are kind of like very combative trigrams potentially, and full of energy, kind of like the sports addict kind of deal, you could think. Guy trying to always compete with you in sports and stuff like that. And that would be the puer geomantic figure that looks a little bit like a phallus and stuff like that. But it's King of Wands. No, not King of Wands. I'm sorry. King of Swords. So, unlike the King of Wands, the King of Swords gets a little bit more combative. And that would be a little bit more military, because the swords represent the military, whereas the wands would represent a little more higher authority. And I don't want to get too specific, other than those who tell the military what to do. You may have those as straight up, the Senate's leading to the king, the Senate leading to the king, or you could have some kind of religious type, religious / government type order as well. So there's no reason to get too into that. But the sword suit is definitely the type of military people of a government, and then that type of action that requires a little bit of military kind of will, or that which requires a lot of will, perhaps even a lot of work. But the swords are right after the wands. You don't get into the kind of lower facets of the labor the whole labor job economy until you get into the last suit of coins. And that's kind of the more peasant, when you think of a peasant doing farm work, that would be kind of in the coins, the last coin suit of Earth. So that'd be kind of like the end of the schema. With fire and swords, you have kind of the top government officials, and then as it breaks down into the military, you can kind of like, and then it goes kind of the generals into the lower facets of the army. Well, you could say maybe the very lowest facets of the army aren't quite as built up, but it all kind of represents swords. And then with the next suit of cups, you would have a more clergy. You start getting a more laid back clergy kind of thing anyway. But it can also just represent good times once it breaks into the mother. So you don't want to totally correlate religion to the cup suit. You would want to correlate the higher facets of religion to that which is even beyond the wand suit, the first suit, honestly. And then with the fire suit, you do have spiritual guys leading the country and etc., like a George Washington. That would be a good combination of both a fire and air suit person who had he was both he was the president and premier general of the War of Independence of the entire nation. So it was like almost about as close to a pharaoh type figure. I guess that's why he has an obelisk. But he was both president and major general. That's kind of warrior chief. He didn't really quite. It's just his Freemasonry affiliation might get him a little bit of the Hierophant archetype. So where he's the priest the priest king. That's a good word. See, I'm getting it. I was just getting at that dichotomy of where you're both the priest and the king. That would be like the pharaoh a little bit. They're a little bit more priestly. I mean kingly, the pharaoh is. But a priest king would be like really a knowledgeable in both of those. And that would be kind of fire air with a little bit of that which is beyond those and into the spirit area, the center of the circle. And the top of the head is the Sahasrara chakra of Keter, the unity principle upon the tree of life. So we discussed here just now that fire of air as Puer is the king of swords. And that's kind of the sword of mental discrimination, because the air suit represents cognition, mentality, and at that top level, brilliance of mentality. Next we have air of air, and that's still going to represent a fairly brilliant mentality, and it's acquisitio. It's the geometric figure acquisitio, as it turns out. That's Prince of Swords, Prince of Swords. So let's look up acquisitio. Just gain, it means gain in Latin. Two bowls turned upright as a common theme, like that and that. So you're kind of catching stuff there. Prince of Swords. Good in almost all situations, especially for getting and obtaining things. It indicates a gain financially, mentally, or in any other form. Alright, here we go with the water of air. And I have that as carcer, prison. The geomantic figure, here it is. That's water of air as Queen of Swords. And water of air, I think, is too much thinking. Overthinking is one. Being stuck in your head by the shape of the geomantic gram. It's kind of a prison, kind of like a lantern type thing. Being stuck in a lantern or something like that. Usually denotes bad situations, delays, setbacks, and bindings. It's kind of too much thought, overthinking, too bound to thought. Restricts willpower because was water of air. The water kind of pats down the air. But as kind of this symbol of kind of the outline of a, what is that, a hexagon? It's kind of a hexagon, if I want to say that. It can be a bit of a hexagon type thing. And that does, it's a core kind of, at least it's a little bit of a core kind of stability. represents willpower a bit. I don't know. Water of air. Maybe a persistence. I don't know. Not really taken to be too well. Queen of Wands. Now, I'm not even comparing the court card symbolism. So, not Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords. Since it's kind of Carcer, let me see if I can get a general quote or something like that. Nah, I'm not gonna really bother with the court card meetings. Queen of Swords, still pretty good. Still like a thinking type mother aspect. A Queen of Swords would be kind of like a judge, lawyer, kind of a high female mental intellect, and just it's called Carcer because it may also represent too much intellect, overthinking of and using kind of your inspiration to overthink instead of toward a little better means. All right, now let's just go to the last tetragram of the air suit, Princess of Swords, which I have correlated to Tristia. Excuse me. Here we go. Oh, yeah. It's Earth of Air. Tristia, sorrow. Earth of Air. Grinding out your thoughts, perhaps. Thinking about mortality. It's the Earth of Air. Tristia, sorrow. Maybe perhaps dwelling. That would be kind of an overdwelling. Not so much perhaps of an overthinking, perhaps overdwelling. Gets perhaps into doom. The good thing is that it would be a air suit still, so not quite, overall. Princess of Swords, that's still a nice young amount of energy. Feel like a young woman a little bit there. Fairly active because it's the sword suit. So Tristia's sorrow. Maybe it's some mundane work. I'm not sure. Let's just go ahead. And next with the water suit, the aqua suit, we've got the first tetragram and geometric figure is Cauda Draconis. And that is not considered very well. It's the tail of the dragon, as I picture. Right here. Whoa. And that's fire of earth. Fire of earth. Fortuna. Whoa, sorry. I skipped one. This is actually Cauda Draconis. It's not fire of earth, it's fire of water. We're not quite there yet. I skipped ahead. Sorry about it. It's fire of water. You see how it makes this little tail of a dragon image. It could be like tail of a snake, or at least something that splits at the bottom. Cauda draconis. That means bad fortune, as opposed to caput draconis, the head of the dragon. The head of the dragon is good fortune, tail of the dragon isn't. So here it is, the King of Cups is Cauda draconis, the tail of the dragon, King of Cups. Maybe too much alcohol. That suit is associated with Venus and Mercury, the planets. There's not too much here why it would be quite bad. Kind of the head of the tail of a dragon. I'm not sure. So maybe that means mirth a little bit as well, because that's King of Cups is good times. Cups is good times. The fire, it's fire of water. Fire of water. So the fire is a little bit spiritual, but also can be raging. So you can get a spiritual good time, or you can get a raging fire good time. Perhaps even some music there, music festival, where it's a lot of energy there, fire of water. Anyway, let's go to air of water. And right here, we'll go here, air of water. I can see it at the bottom. That's the conjunctio. And that's opposite in symbolism of carcer. Right here, you can see how the carcer turns in. It's like a little prison, a little hexagram prison, kind of. But then here, we have conjunctio, and that's the opposite, because you've got two yang lines as the center, and then it splays out, and that's kind of conjunctio, because the two solid lines and two single dots conjunct right at the center. So that's air of water. And that would be the Prince of Cups. All right. Yeah, we're rolling right along. Conjunctio. Yeah, of course it's rather mean. It's kind of neutral, but good with kind of if things will harmonize, marriage, relationships, etc. Combination of forces. It's kind of more neutral, noting other things around it a little bit, they say. Right, let's go on to it. So we're going on to the water of water tetragram, and that's a missio because it's actually lost. The air of air tetragram was gain. Right here, I'll try to put my hands on them beforehand. We have this dichotomy. Here is air of air as a acquisitio, and here is water of water as a missio. So you have gain and loss right there. And so this would be the Prince of Swords, and this would be the Queen of Cups. And the Queen of Cups here, you get a pretty good down movement. So it's like two bowls pointing downward. It means loss, but it also means relaxation, because you got kind of the mother going on there. So like a down, a pretty good down there. So Amicio, you know, probably not great fortune. Except for where loss is desired, and I would say it represents a relaxing time. And so you could maybe use it for that type of, it's water of water. Queen of Cups. You could, it's a little bit too watery there to be quite very religious. Very pleasurous, very pleasurous. So it might be quite a pleasurous gram. Or you want to just having a good time, maybe like sensuous even water of water. So, okay. So earth of water is the albus. Geomantic. Oh, it's right here, brothers. What? There it is. Earth of water, and that's the geomantic figure of albus, and that means white in Latin. Now, it's not what you may think these little colors are correlated to them. There's symbology that I've researched that it's not what you think when these colors are kind of announced. But anyway, that would be the earth of water tetragram, Princess of Cups. So you have a young daughter figure of cups. That's probably having a pretty good time there, because it's not taking itself quite as seriously. It's good for most situations, especially with good figures in company. That's kind of a weak figure, probably because of the two broken dots at the top of it. It represents peace, wisdom, and purity. It benefits beginnings and profit. Maybe because it's in the earth of water, it's the earth element, may be like, you know, monetary profit a little bit. Peace, wisdom, and purity is interesting. It's the earth of water. Earth probably represents a stillness right there. And then water is also fairly still. So it is actually still, but that would be like a still water kind of thing. Or even like as water goes into a bank of a creek or lake, like a bank and then a lake or creek of water type laid backness. That's earth of water. So now we're going into the coin suit, which I say is Terra right here. And the first tetragram is Fortuna Minor, as correlated to the geomantic figure. So it's right here. I'm not sure I can get too big with these, but there it is. And it's Fire of Earth. So let me see, Fortuna Minor, Fire of Earth. I guess the fire really helps the earth out, and you have a little bit of a luck going on there. Fire of earth. It says it's a figure of change and instability. Perhaps the dichotomy of fire and earth. Now, these are all my attributions. Non-standard. This is my kind of commentary upon my non-standard attributions. So nobody saw Fortuna Minor as fire of earth before, nor the king of coins is Fortuna Minor. The king of coins. So Fortuna Minor, king of coins. Oh, okay. Maybe he's doing something on Earth. Won a battle, something like that. Anyway, let's roll. The next figure is heir of Earth, and is correlated to Rubeus, the Rubeus geomantic figure, Latin for red. There it is. Heir of Earth, Prince of Coins, Rubeus. I don't know. Is that an overturned glass, perhaps? No, slightly unfavorable figure. Okay, well, we get a Prince of Coins. Perhaps a little boss man or something like that. Not sure, like a little bit of force, maybe perhaps too much force coming your way sometimes or something like that. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done, and this Queen of Coins is Laetitia, which means, I believe, laughter. And we've got Water of Earth, Queen of Coins, Latin for joy. They say the figure kind of by shape represents an arc, fountain, or rainbow. Good in situations that concern potential joy, happiness. Positive figure about in all questions. Water of Earth. Happy card. Water of Earth. It's just, I guess a pretty passive card, Water of Earth. Quite laid back, chilled out. Queen of Coins. Very happy woman. All right. Now this is the last tetragram and geomantic figure correlation. Earth of Earth, Princess of Coins, Populous. Wouldn't you have it? The last tetragram and geomantic figure, Populous. It just represents people, everybody, crowds, the end of things, duality. But we try not to unwind about it. It's Princess of Coins, and let's see what they have about Populous. You could have it as 8 individual coins, and because the Earth suit's a little bit about wealth and a just earthly, kind of earthly success a little bit. So populace instead of people could just represent 8 coins. You could represent it as the 8 lower sephirot of the tree of life, etc. Refers to a gathering or assembly of people, is neutral. So it could represent like a lot. It represents a lot, the many. So if you had it in the right reading, it could say like, ooh, this is going to be a lot too, a lot of that. But if you had it in a bad reading, it could magnify the allotness. Like, not only is this bad, it could be really bad, you know, stuff like that. And plus, even though they say it's neutral, as the very last tetragram, as Earth of Earth, it represents plurality itself a little bit. So it could represent things getting a little bit too dualistic, pluralistic, and which is to say problematic. Oh. All right, yep. Let's discuss this last diagram, which is important. It is my pentagram attributions and correlations. I've thought quite a bit about it philosophically, and I think you have to a little bit more than the Golden Dawn would like people to discuss. Even that kind of got set in stone without too much philosophical back thought about it. We've got 4 elemental directions, and those correspond perfectly to the 4 elements. It's just easily. We're kind of doing things easy when you think of number philosophy as it relates to the 4 directions. It's just fire, air, water, and earth as south, east, west, and north, and those represent the seasons actually of summer, spring, fall, and winter. The earth element kind of grounds out as the end of that elemental system, and so you have the symbolism of winter in the north as green, where the system kind of ends, and the with the least amount of sun. So it is kind of light to darkness a little bit, and as far as lots of sun to not much sun, because it's summer to winter. Seasonally, it goes summer, spring, fall, winter. So it's not like in a exact cyclical rotation. That's because summer is the most yang, spring is yang but not quite as yang, and then fall is yin but not as yin as winter when it's colder. So it's how the actual sun increases from spring on, and then how the sun decreases from fall on. So you have to think about that a little bit. You have to think about a little bit about the summer changing into spring, which nobody usually thinks about because it never changes into spring. But you can think about the fire element going into the air element, and that's summer to spring, using cognate symbolism, where they're both correlated to the south and east, respectively. So, but we're getting in right into this diagram here, guys. And so, this is kind of the end of this. This is the end subject of this talk a little bit. This series of talks, even kind of because once we get solidified on our pentagram attributions, you can go do some ceremonial ritual magic with conviction. And as I said from that get-go, there are two main contenders, but the correlations I use just show that of my favorite, and that is to use the Yod-He Wah-He elemental order as fire, water, air, earth to represent the directions south, west, east, north, which is to say the colors red, blue, orange, green. Now, I use this highest order of the elements because you have to take the perspective of being Deus a little bit. Pharaoh, the holy emperor, ceremonially. In doing so, you would of course probably use the highest order of the elements associated with the Ein section of the Tree of Life. You see, the Ein section and Keter. The Ein through Keter region. There's a wonderful built-in kind of elemental order there because the Yehovah formula fits there as the Ein Sof, R, Keter region, which I spoke of in past videos, but I have it right here. What? But then I chose to dwell on a little bit of other symbolism that I'll get to probably pretty soon here. But anyway, that's how it compares. And then you get that nice fire, water, air, earth symbolism. And here is how it goes around the pentagram. It goes fire, air, water, earth. So where it ends with the left arm of the pentagram being earth. So you got the the bottom, the left bottom arm of the pentagram being earth. So you got the left, you have the right bottom arm. Let's start here. Right bottom arm, that's where it actually starts, the right bottom arm. I was saying where it ended, but the pentagram symbolism begins with the right bottom arm, which represents fire. Then you go up to the right top arm, that represents water. And then the center apex point arm of the pentagram is, of course, spirit. You want that white as spirit, because that's the equilibration arm. And then the left top arm of the pentagram is air. And then as I said, the bottom left arm of the pentagram is earth. And that corresponds to father, mother, son, daughter. Fire, water, air, earth. South, west, east, north. Red, blue, orange, green. Satora repo texit opera rotus. All right. So in addition to that nice fourfold elemental formula, well, let me finish my comments upon the Sator based elemental formula around the pentagram. I just call it, I use an abbreviation because I just use the abbreviation Sator because it goes right around the pentagram like that. You could use Jehovah like that, but then insert what is commonly the sh sound, the 21st Hebrew letter sh, and so you have Yehoshua, which is kind of a name of Jesus or the Messiah. I won't say Jesus because the Jews don't actually believe a Messiah has quite landed yet. Now, if we could, let's penetrate and ride in sound and summon the pilots like a fluid to bring the ship down. Now, one more. Let's get it a little deeper. Well, let's penetrate and share minds and ride in sound and summon the pilots like a fluid to bring the ship down. Talking about that mothership connection. I think that's what was heretofore missing. 120. Can I say the exact number? 9. I'll take that as a no means yes. 121 gigawatts. What? That was hinted at, wasn't it? Touche. So, what I wanted to get into from the last, I think we got the pentagram correlations. Pretty cool. The reason, let me see it. I missed out. I didn't want to miss out. This is actually really important topic as far as the reasoning behind why you want the top elemental direct elemental correlations to the Ein region is because you, as that ceremonial magus, are operating as Deus with the temple floor of Sator Orepo Texet Opera Rotas. So you want a completely, wonderfully banished circle. That's my point. And so you usually always use a banishing pentagram. You always draw a banishing pentagram first in the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the most popular ritual, where you just circumambulate from east, south, west to north, complete that circle, go back to the center, do a little spirit thing there, and end pretty much. That's where you want, usually a banishing ritual is the most powerful. You just banish the elements because they're not quite, they're the level right after the Taiji 2 principle, which is that circle principle. It goes BINDU is the number 1, and then it goes Taiji 2 as that circle principle, as the numbers 1 and 2. And then the next outer circle, the 4 elements, and that's what you're conjoining. So every time you do a ritual like that, the unspoken intent is that you want to equilibrate your elements, right? So you're just equilibrating that part heretofore spoken, the BINDU, the Taiji 2, and then the 4 elements. When you go back to the center, you're kind of putting that all together and just unifying consciousness, of course. Common sense. But so in order to most efficiently do that, you want to banish those four elements. You don't really want to invoke the elements upon you, because that would be kind of invoking the plurality. Now you could invoke elements when you want a certain amount, like of energy or something like that. When you want a specific energy, like say you wanted to go to sleep, you'd kind of maybe earth, get grounded out in earth. I mean, you wouldn't want to do a whole super duper involved ritual to go to bed, but you would just maybe do some visualization of the earth bigram, get grounded with yourself, so that way you're not spacing out thinking about a bunch of crap. You just imagine those bigrams, that trigram, get earthy, grounded like that. And, as you wind down, something like that. So be still, be real still with yourself. Tense your muscles a little bit and then let it go. Let them go, something like that. A little bit of body awareness. Exhale. All right. So, so the best is to use fire, water, air, earth, elemental order, and use the banishing pentagrams for them. And what I mean by that, I wrote it out right here. This I just wrote this little symbol here, and that means if you want to do a banishing fire pentagram, you would start with this lower right arm correlated to the element fire, and you would draw a counterclockwise pentagram like that, and then until it completes at this lower right end again. So you're doing counterclockwise. That's banishing. Counterclockwise is banishing, and then clockwise is invoking. That's my unique rule. I kind of thought it out, and I said, no, I like that, because the Golden Dawn would have you like start at some other element and push that towards the fire arm of the pentagram. But I dislike that, and I think you should begin with the fire arm of the pentagram, and when you want to banish that element, you go counterclockwise with it. So if it was like fire here, I would go counterclockwise with fire, and spin it, and so it spins counterclockwise, and that kind of makes it unwind out from me, kind of, But if you wanted to invoke an element, you would do a clockwise pentagram. You can practice it with kind of spirit to invoke spirit. It would just be that very top point. That's how people would probably draw a pentagram, starting at that top point and going down clockwise. That's invoking spirit by my correlations. So you would do that to invoke each element. You would point your finger right at those elemental correlations, and then do that. And that would be invoking an element. But I'm saying don't do that in practice. You always want to banish the elements when you're doing one of those rituals, because the elements aren't quite godly enough. They're the four directions. So you want to move away from plurality, is what I'm saying. Sorry, it's hard to boil this stuff down. But when you banish the elements, you are symbolically banishing plurality a little bit. I mean, not that the elements themselves are very pure conceptions. It's only the first four divisions. But I'm saying when you do these holy rituals of white magic, it's trying to get one towards a very nice unitary consciousness, in a state of kind of a spiritual exaltation for a little bit. And that's why I'm saying to a normal academic that wouldn't be a first be thought of as a first priority, but actually somebody trying to stave off demons and like trying to like got some kind of like psycho case or something where you want a bunch of divine power uh, being you want a bunch of divine authority for yourself. You've got a bad situation, you're going to need a little bit of authority to deal with it. You're going to need a lot of centeredness, will, focus. You do that you do that pentagram ritual about 3 times. If you do it 3 times a day, you'll be up there. You'll be making real good progress. You only really need to do it 1 time a day to like really keep a good focus going. But you keep doing that. No more than 3 times a day. Don't overdo it. But you could do it morning, afternoon, and then even evening. But it gets less. I think it gets a little bit less effective as you go towards evening. Even though it seems like sunset would be a nice time to do a nice casual ritual. The way the ritual kind of soups you up a little bit, so I would kind of move. If you wanted to do it 3 times, I would kind of try to narrow it down a little bit. Wake up early and then do another one at lunch, and then midday to early evening, something like that. That would be a pretty good way, because as it gets into night, as I spoke of in previous video or two, it gets more tamasic. It's just the consciousness of humanity kind of settles down, and so does yours. And you don't want to be doing these high spiritual rituals that just they almost inadvertently invoke the God, a little bit of godhood and divinity upon you. Just doing it. So I don't think it's necessarily super duper to be doing it in the evening, when a lot of other people are relaxing, and you probably would too. So I would like kind of save it for when you want supercharged a little bit, early morning, stuff like that. It'll really keep you focused throughout the day, keep you positive, keep you believe it or not, it will keep you unified in consciousness. Just doing that ritual. Very interesting. I wouldn't even advise doing it start 3 times a day right at first. I would just do it like once. You could do it maybe twice, I would start slow and see if and kind of gently note its effects upon you. Because it ends up in invoking the Holy Spirit down on you, because you end with the Holy Spirit section. So it unites your 4 elements and then invokes the Holy Spirit on you on a daily basis. And if you keep doing it, if you just compare that to what most people are doing during their day, a lot of people just start drinking at about 3 p.m. You know what I'm saying? But and they don't do shit. They're just and then they spend their morning kind of wearing off their sluggishness. So that's why I say, if you really want to, if you're looking to make quick progress, you'll have to minimize your alcohol intake a little bit, at least, and then try to get some ritual and then pranayama yoga in. Try to get a bunch of, yoga is almost the best, and then you want magic, and then you can do the dot meditation. Just look at a dot for as long as you can without closing your eyes, and highlight just a black or blue dot about 1/8 inch up to a 1/4 inch in diameter for people with bad eyesight. But You want to be you want it as keen as kind of possible there, and look for that. Look at that for 20 minutes to a half hour at a session, until basically until your eyes get real clean. Uh, the great thing about that practice is you will notice your eyes clearing up, but because you'll be able to concentrate upon that dot clearly and with greater focus and keenness of vision. And you will also be surprised how that has a tendency to stop thought, like even like hearing a kind of internal chatter. That stops internal chatter of whatever kind. And it has the wonderful side effect, beyond kind of the more lofty yogic effects, of clearing up your vision so you can look at computers a lot longer without any kind of trouble or blurriness or fatigue. So it strengthens your eyes like that. So it's super useful. So just like say, hey, give it up to Horus, the Falcon God, and practice some dot meditation. I think we have it about all, but I'm going to go into this further thing I started to in about 15 minutes ago. But even though we've been talking about the four elements and the yad, he, wa, he formula and sequence that is actually present in the Ein region of the Tree of Life, and so is quite holy. It's one of the holiest names. You could use that on your magical weapons with very wonderful protective results. But I'm going to end with a divergence. I've already spoke of my pentagram allocations and my underlying theory of why the Yod He Wa He order is correct to use in magic ritual. And now I'm going to proceed to discuss the Ein region of the Tree of Life a little bit more, and primarily how the first three region, the entire region can be thought of as a triad, specifically with the alchemical attributions sulfur, salt, and mercury. So Ein Sof R can be attributed to the alchemical tria prima, sulfur, salt, mercury. The father, mother, child. Father sulfur, he is combustible. That's combustible sulfur that explodes. And then mother salt, you could say mater sal. You could say pater sulfur, mater sal, mother salt. Salt is the non-reactive substance, that of the body, that of the salt sea, the goddess of the salt sea. And the last section of the Ein region of the Tree of Life, the Ein Sof R, is the great Mercury, Mercurius himself. He emerges from the great salt sea, carrying the caduceus wand. Okay, so now what I want to kind of end on a bit here is the three alchemical principles, otherwise called the Tria Prima, have a pretty good Indian parallel in the three gunas. They're called gunas in India. That of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. That's not the common kind of order. The common name order you'll hear is, quote, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Okay? But Rajas is the father because it's the red and it's the kind of combustible meaning. They don't quite realize the full correlations in India, but the mother is Tamas, and that's the dull and inactive by comparison. Those two are opposites. So you have Rajas Tamas, you have the swift and the slow is kind of father and mother. I don't want to get like, it's just the, you know how the mother is a little bit less energy, kind of cooking, taking care of the kids. The Rajas is a little more active. They used to go to work more. Think of that kind of thing. And then Sattva is the purity of them both. There, it gets a higher designation than perhaps even in alchemy. So where you have Sattva is the equilibration state of the Rajas and Tamas. Pretty much in India you'll have kind of, and I think this is how it goes up the tree of life. I think at first the student and the adept and the last four Sephiroth of the tree of life as Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkut, that represents the Tamas state. That's the Tamas guna right there. That's the Muladhara chakra, all of that can be. And it's the Negredo phase of alchemy. So it's kind of blackening. It's kind of the most dull part, the last four Sephiroth of the tree of life. And then the Sephir after that, or right before that, as it were, is Tipperet as the number 6. And that's planetary sun, and that's the beginning of the yang part of the tree, the male part. So and that lower part is that's all the yin part. So that's where it kind of decreases, and then this yang part beginning with the number 6 is where the system starts to increase, as it were, even though there's a steady increase from the numbers 10 to 1. But as far as the gender of the trigrams is concerned. And what I was going to say is, so you have Tamas as the Negredo as the number 7 through 10. And now you can have, it's kind of a hard parallel, because you definitely have the albedo after that as the whitening. That's the second phase of alchemy. That doesn't change. You got Negredo, then albedo. So my stance is that the albedo has to be the numbers 4, 5, and 6 as that triangle. And then that would make the rubedo either the whole series number 1, 2, 3, or just 1, because alchemy either has 3 or 4 phases like that, and you can throw in a stage between rubedo and albedo called citrinitas. And you could make citrinitas the numbers 2 and 3 if you wanted to. So it basically fits like that, where Negredo is the last 4 Sephiroth, the albedo is Sephiroth 4, 5, and 6, and then you get into the rubedo. But I'm saying, look how that might parallel the Indian Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, because there, Sattva is actually the highest principle, where the adept has evened himself out. he has conquered the two bifurcations within himself, being weak or strong, too weak or too strong, too combustive or too inactive. So he has reached a flow state. In other words, sattva is more the flow state, and I would say probably the taiji too, kind of more the hokma principle of. So I really do have to state that, because you can't really put sattva down into the albedo to match the colors a little bit of alchemy. So where you'd want to try to put Rajas as rubedo. I think I might have tried to put Rajas as rubedo even. No, I didn't. I didn't right here. So I was afraid I might. That's a common mistake. I had sulfur as Rajas. Salt is Tamas, of course. And then mercury is sattva. And if you try to make, when you get into the 3 phases of alchemy, this is correct. You have Tamas and salt as the nigredo. But what's the albedo? The albedo is just a higher, kind of a higher form of Tamas, a little bit. It is. It's kind of a subsection of Tamas, actually. And then, so you got 3, 2, 1 after that. This might represent the planets on the tree of life, 3 through 10. And then sattva here would be it could possibly be the Taijitu. And then here would be the 1 of Keter. That's kind of weird though. So I haven't really, sulfur, salt, and mercury. As far as the phases of alchemy, I am sure on these correlations, but sulfur and Rajas are the father, and salt and Tamas are the mother, and mercury and sattva are the child. Now, the nigredo is a Tamas state comparatively, because it's the first stages of the adept's consciousness. And so it depends upon how you want to symbolize your consciousness as it gets a bit more evolved, whether it be mercury or sulfur, sattva or Rajas. Sattva is like the eloquent unity of a slightly lower Tamas and Rajas state within the 3 gunas, but Rajas is read kind of as rubedo. You can't really you'd have to put something above, or maybe the child is, you might have to have the child as Keter. Kind of as the Tao is the infinite way, as kind of and then I would keep this as Keter. I would keep this as both the Ein Sof R and Keter, as sattva for this to make sense. So this can't really be compared to the albedo, even though it's in between the nigredo and the rubedo. It would have to be considered this would have to be considered the rubedo, unfortunately, because slightly unfortunately, because this is the Ein Sof R and Keter region, and that would be the rubedo, the highest state of alchemy, leading to self-realization as an epsissimus. That would definitely be a rubedo state. So in order of father and mother, but you have, see, you have Rajas and Tamas. I would say comparatively, the Rajas part, yeah, I would say this is correct here, what I'm saying. You have the Mercury Sattva child as a phase of alchemy that represents both the entire spirit complex of the circle. So both the Bindu and the Taiji 2, and also the Ein Sof R. So that entire complex down to the Taiji 2. And then you have the numbers 3 through 6 as Rajas. Sephiroth 3 through 6. So Binah, Kesed, Geburah, and Tipperet you are in the Rajas phase. And that would actually be the albedo, believe it or not, of alchemy. That's the albedo of alchemy, the Rajas. So it doesn't quite correlate one-on-one. Here it's not, the father isn't the super regal part. He's the prone to combustibility part a little bit. And the opposites are splayed out from the numbers 3 through 10. So where you have male above female as the numbers 3 through 6, and then female as the numbers 7 through 10. So you have the albedo as the numbers 3 through 6, and then you have the negredo as the numbers 7 through 10, and that's the all the whole yin complex, all the yin trigrams. And that's the female part of the tree of life, 7 through 10. And that would be Tamas, the mother. So 7 through 10, Tamas. 3 through 10, Rajas. 7 through 10, Negredo. 3 through 6, albedo. Number 2, Sattva. Number 1, Sattva. Ein Sof R, Sattva. Taiji 2, Sattva. Okay. So, and that would somehow be the rubedo, the final stage of alchemy. Since the albedo begins with the number 3, the number 2 ups the rubedo, apparently. Once you become a magus in Hokmah, I guess you have entered the rubedo. That's the beginning of the circle. When you think of a circle in 4 directions, the number 2 is right when you enter the centrality of the circle and the beginning of the spirit element. But technically, a rubedo proper would not happen until you reach full self-realization, total illumination, if you want to call it that. Pure openness. As the flowering of the Sahasrara chakra correlated to the crown, Keter as the number 1, as unity, Akkad, on the tree of life. Crusos. Okay, so I think we kind of explained this threefold division a little bit. Father, mother, child. I say Hadit, Nuit, Horus. But it is pure Mercury. But when you when it breaks into father, mother, son, daughter, you could say son is kind of Horus, the son, and then the daughter it's not really, but it's Thoth. Thoth is just because it's Keter, and it's kind of, you could say Thoth is the magic part of Horus, which is more like a golden sun type. But when you just want to specify magic, it'd be Keter, because that's when the universe borns. You got that hidden triad in 0, and then it can't really manifest because it's just the mathematical infinities of 0, infinity, and the unity between those 2 points or 2 concepts. And and then the last one's limitless light. So imagine if you actually manifested physically, everything would just be an infinite field of the sun. It would just basically be like if an infinite sun dropped out of a black hole suddenly. It would just destroy everything, of course. So that's why these exist within the number 0 and are always in potential. And so with the number 1, you have the BINDU, the point, and I think that's theoretically pretty much that which exists right prior to and that which the universe is within. You can imagine that as kind of an egg of spirit, the Holy Spirit, kind of like an egg where the actual of oneness, of the one thing. So it's like a one substance. And then from that one substance, the entire creation and universe is born. Is from duality, the duality that comes from the unity. Okay? Easy. So it's kind of Thoth. I kind of like this, kind of like a frothing. It's kind of like a bubbling, a frothing, and what the Greek word Thoth, just by letter shape, represents a bubbling. You can write Thoth as either with an omicron or an omega, as I kind of exemplify here. But it looks like 2 eyes of an ibis, the 2 thetas, Thoth. So that's real cool too. And then I actually made a formula right here. I kind of really have to specify. But if you write 4 Thoths like this, theta, omicron, theta, in each direction, that equals 88 in Greek. And then you write Thoth as theta, omega, theta at the center as 818. I got the equation right here. Oh, it's up. 88 times 4 plus 818 equals 1170. And what would you know? That equals Horus in Greek as omega, rho, omicron, sigma. So it's like so you get like a cool Thoth formula, like you can put it on an amulet. But you got Thoth in each elemental direction, and then you got Thoth within an omega written big in the center. So it's actually like a formula of an adult ibis with 4 children almost. But anyway, this kind of magical talisman equals Horus. So you got like that. So you got like Thoth being like the dissection, the 5-fold dissection of Horus. And I like the concept of Horus's eye that he lost, his magic eye. I think that's Thoth, because Thoth has the pin of precision, the needle of precision, just as like an ibis catches a fish really astutely. That's the symbol you can wear. It's kind of astuteness. And it's cool. It's like a Horus. It equals Horus in Greek. You wouldn't, not many people would know the Greek spelling of Horus. It's just Omega, Rho, Omicron, Sigma. I like it. So I figured I'd kind of show that for a second. And that is actually it, guys. We rolled it out, brothers. So what is like, so finally, so if the top three parts of the Ein region of the Tree of Life are sulfur, salt, mercury, what is Keter? Keter, once you get the mercury there as the Ein Sof, that's just a field of pure infinite light potential. And then what it does, it separates down eventually into the point, symbolized into like a point of the BINDU point. But what is actually the BINDU point made of? And what it is the balance. I wrote a little parentheses and I used the Libra sign to denote it, but it's the balance of the sulfur, salt, mercury principle. So just imagine a BINDU point that has within its potential the perfect balance of sulfur, salt, and mercury, which are already known as the tria prima of alchemy. So it's the philosophy is already there. You just kind of have to be able to organize it and understand it. But it's cool how kind of the ancients thought of this basic philosophy. So it's really cool to be able to kind of condense it down and to make a whole bunch of sense of it right now, which is possible. So I ended on Horus. Being the unity, the magical unity of Thoth. But they're basically like a dualistic god. I would like to think of Horus and Thoth kind of as a dualistic one entity, a little bit, just for the case of the Ein Sof region and the Keter region, because you can Thoth as that god that holds the pen of precision, and so you put that anytime you put a pen right on a piece of paper, it makes a point. That's how Thoth, as the god of magic, could just kind of create the BINDU point of the universe and be associated with that BINDU point. But as I say, the top region of the Tree of Life is triadic, and the Ein Sof is actually the original Mercury. So anytime you have a direct ascription of Mercury to the Ein Sof, you gotta have Thoth in there. That's Thoth. Thoth is the child. So you have Hadit, Nuit, Thoth, too. And so maybe Horus is a grown-up Thoth. Maybe Thoth's like the child, Horpar Krat, a little bit. Just the player. Once you have a god of magic, you got a god that will try new things, a curious god. It has to be to find all the knowledge out. The god of magic is a god of knowledge. The Egyptians understood the symbology. They might not have termed everything like I have, but they use the ibis that is keen to catch fish and then stand in a still posture with its long legs. They use that as a symbol for a note taker person, symbolized by the god Thoth, who held a pen. So those scribes, like a scribe. So they associated all that way back in Egyptian times, where the scribes, the priests, the probably early, I don't even know what you'd call them, accountants. There was just people taking records of inventories way back when. So it's like that, it's kind of that boring, precise activity, which you could say like accounting nowadays. Something like that. But that kind of gets you acute a little bit and honed into detail and precision, and that's indicative of figuring things out, being wise enough to figure things out. So anyway, I like the fivefold Thoth there, directionally, to create the four-letter Greek Horos. Horos, like a horoscope? Horos. Cool, huh? So, Thoth got a magic, kind of like a young, probably like a young guy trying to figure it out, figure everything, but also kind of a really old, not a really old, but an astute, an adult, because he figured magic out like a total professional. So if you can imagine a young, total professional, probably like completely surprised how blinding his magic is and how eloquent his speech is at that young of an age, etc., etc. Young genius. The young genius? That would be the Keter, the blinding. So, okay, now let's end very much on the technical term. Keter is the day of the Tao. We didn't really touch as much on the Chinese parallels. We'll do it right at the end because they are important. Keter, the BINDU point, is technically the day of the Tao. Now the day is commonly translated as virtue, but when you really read in the history of the ideogram, you get power. You get almost like shamanic power, even a little bit. So it's quite literally can be power being showed forth. And so I say that's the power of the Tao. That's the Tao being manifest a bit. And I define Tao as the infinite way. I've been able to research that the etymology of the Tao goes back to the Sanskrit drajas as a cognate and the Hebrew root drg, which equals 207 in metric Hebrew. 4 plus 200 plus 3, and that equals light. A plus AUR as A 1 plus 6 plus 200. So DRG equals R, way equals light. That's how I know that the Tao is the infinite light of the Ein Sof R, the infinite way. The infinite way equals the infinite light. Excellent. Wonderful. We know it. Wow. So the day is Keter. What? Keter is the day of the Ein Sof R, the Tao. The infinite way. So it's the power and virtue of the infinite way. The whole universe right here of manifestation is a showing forth of the majesty, the power and virtue of the infinite way of the Tao, the Ein Sof R, the infinite light. It shows itself forth as the BINDU point of creation, being composed of the balance of the sacred triad of sulfur, salt, mercury, father, mother, and child, combined into one, and then sent out in perfect equilibration and balance, just as the god of magic Thoth would eloquently scribe out the entire universe of creation, which is magic. The entire universe of magic, the entire magical universe. Fire, where? Fire where? Fire, water, air, earth. Fire's all over the place, apparently. It's like Heraclitus said. He got the Logos and fire rolling. So the Logos is Keter, apparently. More than, I mean, the Logos is the Ein Sof R as well, because it's Abrahadabra. The 11-fold word of Abrahadabra starts in the Ein Sof R, the infinite light of the child. So that's the first envelopment of the tree of life. I think I did it in a diagram here. Pretty cool. But it might have already been here. No. Gold beads. Might have been way gone down in the roly-poly gnosis. Well, I got lost in the weeds. What? All right. So, yep, we got it all. Thoth times 5 equals Horus. That's almost as cool as 11 times 4 plus 3, 30. As Hor Par Krat, Hor Par Krat, Hor Par Krat, Hor Par Krat, Rumakis. Love is the law. Love under will. Slipping and dipping on your slip knot hideaway. Ordering namaste to your Fridays. Ordering a hit on your slip knot hideaway. Saying hallelujah to all you Fridays. Right in the namaste sauce. Cowboys. Oh, did you see that? Didn't quite work, did it? Look at that. Oh, slip knot to your has-be-nots. What? Don't lose focus. Always time for a little hope. Aha! Caught it. Oops. Caught it. Perfect. Right between the nuts. Let me try to get a good one here. One time for Thoth. Ooh, backwards. Wow. One time for Horse. Ooh, probably on the floor. I don't want to hurt my nice. One time for Ra. Ooh, that was backwards on the tip. One time for Hor, Par, Ra. Ooh, backwards still. One time for Rumachus. No. One time for Huddy. Oh. Well, you know who that leaves. One time for me. Miss. One time for Yehovah. Backwards. One time for Wizard Yaowen. One time for Satan. I did what? Here it is. Damn, you're a fine piece of cameratic, cinematic, spine tingling. I'm not even sure how many tries that was. I'll look it up in the evening when everybody's going. Oh, that's Walter Long. What you thought? Thought you could tell time? That's Walter Long's Uncle Henry. King of the wild Sasquatches. Swoop down and scoop up. Parachute. Swiss helixes. Satan the phosphorescent magus, STPM. Crusoe's. Well, I'm STPM in there, the MMK, and we've been telling time to time's dismay. I want for the alien and two for his ship, and me on my underbelly on its underside, beneath time-enduring spores of cubensis, warping through dimensions in collision with the sun. The new abrahadabra. This has been Wizard Yaoan. Kshetriya. Tet. The Fortress. 9-3. The Star Hadid. Tit. The Devil. 70. 4774. The fish. 60 plus 1 plus 9 plus 1 plus 50. With tet in the center thereof. Fos, theou. Crusos. Touché. Aka.